Hey, Trailblazers, it's Leah Ray. And in this episode, we're talking about how to build a successful business after getting fired. So stick around. If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer Podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest. Welcome, Matt Stanley. We're excited to have you on the show today. I think this will be an interesting story and hopefully provide lots of inspiration and insights for our audience today. But yeah, let's get into it a little bit. Let's set the stage here because you have quite a story. So take us back to the beginning here. How did this happen?
Yeah, great question. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on. So I think a lot of people, they make a decision like, I want to start a business. I want to be an entrepreneur. And they have that inside of them. And what's funny is I had it inside of me, but I didn't realize it until I came to a crossroads where I had to make a pretty massive decision. So I've been using the internet, building websites, marketing, doing SEO since about 3 years after the government made the internet accessible to the public. That's really how far back my experience goes with the internet and marketing online. But in 2008, I was the webmaster of the largest K-12 school district in Idaho, and I loved my job. I actually loved the work I was doing. I didn't love the politics so much because I was at district office where it's kind of like a political campaign and who do I need to, not offend and stuff like that. So that wasn't fun. But it was really interesting because the 3.5 years I was there was preparation for what was about to happen. I didn't even see it at the time. But 2008, I'm at my desk, just doing my thing, doing my webmaster duties, building websites, helping other people know how to manage theirs. And my boss comes up to me and he says, "Hey, Matt, do you have a second?" And what was weird is I just knew innately that I was about to be given the news that I was being let go. And so for listeners, watchers that don't understand how a school district works, it's not like a traditional job. You are hired, you are given a contract for 12 months. And at the other end of the contract, it's either renewed or it's not. And assuming you're doing well, you're doing a good job, your performance review is good, you just keep getting the contract renewed. It's really not complicated. It's pretty straightforward. It's very unlike traditional private sector employment. But when he said that, I just knew I'm not going to have my contract renewed. You got to understand context, right? So this is 2008. And 2008 was, when you do the math for inflation, it actually was a much worse situation economically as far as a recession than the Great Depression. That is an objective fact. And so it was awful. The subprime mortgage crisis that started in 2007 really went strong till about 2011, 2012, was devastating. And the school district was looking at their people as necessary to survive or expendable. That's just how the decision was being made. And so I was like, yeah, he went into his office. He said, close the door. And I just knew what he was going to say. And he just said, hey, I don't agree with this decision. It's a couple levels above my pay grade. And every opportunity I had to give input about whether or not you should be let go, I was physically out of town. It was weird how I wasn't able to participate, but I couldn't sleep last night. I was physically sick because I really value you and I hate to lose you, but I don't have a choice. And I'm just letting you know in 20 days, you'll not have a job. And I'm going to be honest here. I'm going to tell the truth. I was in a place where I was not ready for that. My wife recently had taken a pretty massive pay cut to be able to telecommute, because this is pre-COVID, guys. And in Idaho pre-COVID, we had a weird culture here where there's this strange mentality that if I can't physically see the white of your eyeballs, I don't trust that you're working. And so telecommuting was unheard of. There were very few unicorn companies that did that, but by and large, it was like not even an option. Well, she was able to find this job where that was an option because she wanted to be home and not have to go with the commute. And so We were making less money than we ever had in our married life. And this school district job was not exactly great pay either. And so I find that I'm not going to have a job. And I fell apart, man. I really did. And I was doing the ugly cry, blowing snot bubbles like a 5-year-old girl in his office because I felt like my life is over. I really did. It's the truth. And so he was gracious. He was super professional and was kind of probably not expecting that reaction. But I was like, and I'm a Christian. I love the Lord. And I got to share this part of the story. So in this moment, I really felt the Lord speak to me. And he just asked me a question 3 times. Same question. Each time was a little different. He said, do you trust in your paycheck or do you trust in me? And the first time, when I pray, I generally pray, silently. I don't pray out loud and stuff. And so I was like, well, that's a stupid question. Why would you ask me? I've been a Christian since I was 5 years old. And it was just a really arrogant response that I had. And he's a gentleman. So he's like, okay. And he waited a little bit and then he asked again. But this time he's like, do you trust in your paycheck? You trust in me. And I wasn't quite so cocky the second time with the response. And I started to list out all the things that I thought were awesome about this great job of mine. And he goes, okay. And so he waited again to ask the third time. And this time he asked the same question with the same words. But I think like if there's a semicolon between each word, he was really trying to punctuate the question and make a point. And I had this realization. It was kind of like a great parenting moment where I realized I've put so much of my identity and confidence and security and peaceful rest on the job that I miss in the forest for the trees. So the job is just the conduit that the money flows through, but it's not who I am, right? And I realized, wow, I've got this completely backwards. God knows what I need. God knows what I love. God knows what I'm made for. And if I'm going to really be fulfilled as a man, I need to understand that there's a difference between vocation and calling. There's a world of difference between those things. And I'd never really considered calling. I'd heard people use the word, but I had no concept really of the word, practically speaking, and kind of think of like a realignment on a car. He helped recalibrate my mindset and help me understand, wow, you really don't understand that what you're made for is impossible in the context of a normal job. And you don't fit. You've never fit. You will never fit in a traditional employment situation. You're meant to be an entrepreneur. You are an entrepreneur, but you're meant to be a pioneer that sees problems in the marketplace and solves them and delivers solutions that don't exist that the market needs. And what you're supposed to do from here forward, because it was a fork in the road moment. You've got door number 1, door number 2. There's no door number 3. And it's a full all-in commitment. It's all in, yes or no. Do you want to go with me on this adventure and do something awesome that will require a level of faith you've never, ever experienced before, but that will be so fulfilling that you can't imagine your life looking any different? And you're going to have to trust me and you're going to have to let me guide you, but you already have everything inside of you. You need to do it. You just have to kind of unlock and discover it. And even though I had 20 days to get some stuff figured out, I really felt this is a moment of decision. And I need to make a decision and I need to not be 1 foot in, 1 foot like, nope, just jump in the ocean, man. Let's do this. And I really just did that. And, I already had a limited liability company. I already had a logo and a domain and a brand and a website. I already kind of tried to do the side hustle thing, getting some marketing clients, thinking that, eventually I would quit my job when I had a certain book of business. And if you want to make God laugh, make a plan. And so he's like, no, this ain't going to look like that. And so I just decided, I know this is something that I'm supposed to do. And I think it's something I'm excited to do. And I don't have a clue. I don't have a roadmap. I don't have a marketing plan. I don't have anything like that, but we'll figure it out together. So that's kind of the genesis story of where this started. That was June 10th, 2008, maybe 2 p.m. That meeting with my boss happened. And I was like, my life will be forever different from this moment forward. I just knew it in my knower. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you do? Like once you knew that this was your path forward, what did you buckle down and get to work? And even as a Christian for myself, I always feel like, God's in control and he's got everything, but he's making me move my feet. Like I'm still responsible to do the hustle, to do the work, to whatever, and trust, right? So how did you move your feet? What was going on to actually get this up and running?
Great question. So I mentioned kind of a moment ago that I had a website, I had a domain. And what's really interesting is this didn't look anything like what I expected would, because I'm a very creative, visionary thinker. I'm highly empathic. I'm the guy that like lives in the clouds all the time, dreaming big dreams. And my wife, thank God, she's a gift because she's my polar opposite personality wise and like 95% of who she is. She kind of helps keep me tethered to the ground. And it's like, that's great. Vision's great, but like we got to execute, right? We got to be practical. So I'm thinking just websites. I've been building websites by this couple decades, by now. And I was thinking, well, it's just going to be websites. And so I reached out to the kind of professional context I built up over the years through networking and things like that. And was doing some search engine optimization as the primary marketing traffic sort of means, and was just building websites. Well, it was interesting. One other quick thing. I was trying to figure stuff out and not trusting the Lord enough for just really strategic guidance. And so I was like, well, I got to get on unemployment, right? Straight away. We got to eat and we don't have a lot of savings. And so we got to get on unemployment. And as a Christian, I couldn't in good conscience, supposedly, this is what I thought would happen, take the money and not do the work necessary to get the money. So you've got to put out X number of applications a week and prove it and all that kind of stuff to get the money from the state of Idaho. And so I was doing that, but then they're like, are you actively looking for a full-time job? And I wrestled with that because I went, God made it pretty clear I'm not supposed to have a job. And so that's diametrically opposed to unemployment. And it was a moral quandary because I'm like, I can't violate my conscience, but I got to eat. And again, it was another faith test. There were so many things that's still happening where it's a test of my faith. You say this, but are you going to step out and put the full weight of your body on that in trust and actually put action and obedience to what you say? They say that no one will believe what you say unless the character and the behavior lines up with that. So I really felt it's challenge. And I just felt like the Lord say, listen, man, you either trust me or you don't. And if I've said this is what you're supposed to do, you don't need help from the state of Idaho for money. I'll pay the bills. So I was like, all right. So started to reach out, tried to strengthen relationships we had, try to get more work out of them. And I was thinking websites. Well, it didn't take very long before I realized that websites are great, but this is just tiny little sliver of what I'm supposed to be doing, because we kept having people call us and say, hey, I know you're the website guy, but we really need a logo. We need some help with our branding, and we need some help with the graphic design. And we'd really like some marketing collateral put together. I'm like, well, we don't do that. We don't do that. And we kept losing business because they wanted a comprehensive solution, which we're going to get to that later, actually. But I didn't see that was something that I could do. And so there's a lot of imposter syndrome that I've wrestled with. I still struggle with that 17 years into this thing, being full-time self-employed. And I kept limiting myself because I didn't have vision for what I could do, because it was kind of like I was in my little box and no one was going to get me out of it, right? I loved my comfort zone, and you can't grow in your comfort zone. This is something I've learned. When you're comfortable, you're complacent and you're limiting your own potential, and you're sabotaging your own destiny. That's a fact. And so my wife, who's very wise, she goes, why do we keep saying no to these things? I said, well, because number one, I don't have all the skill set to do all the technical work in Illustrator and Photoshop and all that for brand sort of stuff. I'm just kind of the website guy. She goes, well, we can hire people to help with that. We can hire subcontractors to help with that. And I said, okay. And so I felt like, yeah, she's got a point. So we expanded. And so then we started, we got into full-blown marketing agency work, and the business really started to flourish and grow because I realized, yes, websites are important, but it's just one little piece of the pie. People need a holistic and comprehensive solution. And so I kept growing and stretching and saying yes to things that I knew we were supposed to do, but I was very uncomfortable with. And that being willing to just be uncomfortable was ironically kind of the foundation of real blessing in our business. And people started to realize, he's more than the website guy. I had to start with my mindset, which is where most of the problem starts or is for even people like that are established in business. And I had to get a new vocabulary. I had to get a new way of thinking, and I had to look at the fact that the market needs more than websites. The websites are the landing zone and the central hub for what happens with converting browsers to buyers. But there's tons of work that precedes their ever seeing your whatever.com. And we need to provide solutions to help with more than what even they're looking for. And so it's just evolved over time. And it's been a lot of fun to realize, even people that call us for one thing, they don't realize it's kind of like it's a symptom. This is a graphic example, but I don't know how else to say it. They have a cancer that's killing their business, but they're looking at all the symptoms and they can't see what the root problem is. And so something else the Lord has showed me is I've given you a sense of lenses in your heart where you can actually look at a business objectively. You can analyze by asking really specific questions where the root problems are, and then diagnose the root problem. And all these symptoms literally go away because you fix what's really wrong in the foundation. And so many people hire marketing agencies or freelancers or web people or whatever, social media people, because they're playing whack-a-mole blindfolded in the dark. They don't know because they're not a business person. They're a roofer, or they're a plumber, or they're a chiropractor. They love what they do. They're really good at it, and they should do that. But they don't have the expertise or understanding of business and sales and marketing, which are kind of the trifecta of awesome as an entrepreneur. And they're lacking either the technical acumen and or the practical education to know how to fix what's wrong. And they can't see what's wrong because they're too close to it. And so what the Lord's given me is really a framework. It's proprietary, but it's a framework to say, your business is probably struggling because of no more than 5 core things. I mean, it's probably only 3 things really. And if we get that stuff right and tight, your business is going to flourish and you're going to make way more money than you need. And you're going to have to decide, do I start scaling up and hiring people, or do I just want to stay at this certain income level? And I'm fine with that, but this is as much as we can do because we're actually really healthy as a business. That was kind of a meandering fire hose answer, but that's really what's happened over time, because it's been really a wild journey where I'm kind of along for the ride and doing a lot of really rewarding things, because I realize that as marketers, I don't know, you guys obviously are marketers, you understand this, but as marketers, I feel like I have a sacred duty of trust to take people's investment and say, listen, we don't just want addition here. We want exponential multiplication. And when I win is when my clients are so exceeding their goals and expectations because of the work we've done together that they have rich people problems, right? They have new challenges. They're like, well, our challenge used to be that we had, we'd struggle to make sure we could always cover payroll. That's long gone in the rearview mirror. Now we can't keep up with the demand, or we've realized the market kind of shifted. So we need to pivot and not focus so much on this service, but we need to either expand more. We need to kind of focus down in this one area. And you have different challenges as you grow, because every business has a life cycle, right? Just like a human, you start out as a baby in diapers, then you start to kind of cruise, which is like kind of walking while holding onto furniture, right? Then you can walk, then you can run, then you're grown. And then eventually you kind of peak, and then you start to decline a little bit as your age and your body fails you as you get older. But business is just like that. And if we're not eating nourishing food, if we're not properly hydrated, if we're not getting enough movement and exercise, we're not going to be healthy. And in business, it's just like in life. You got to make sure you're eating the good food that you need to have the fuel to carry on the mission. And so much of what business I think lacks is there's just a void in the marketplace where there's just not good, solid business education that understands how these things are all connected. It's so siloed. They're focused on this, but they don't realize that it's kind of like a living system, right? I use a lot of metaphors, but the human body is an intricate, amazing piece of fine-tuned machinery. Everything's connected and everything affects everything else. So you've got your blood, you've got your bloodstream, you've got your muscles, you've got your organs. If any one thing is off, the whole body suffers. And when you don't have a cohesive and holistic approach to your sales and marketing system and how it tracks back to business with what's your vision, mission, purpose, why are you here and what are you trying to do, you're just going to struggle. And there's no reason for that if you have the right support. And so I'm pretty passionate about not only delivering awesome campaigns for our clients in terms of the actual work we do, but saying that's great, but if I'm not adding value beyond that to helping with your mindset and your coaching of how to think properly and how to be on mission and vision, and make sure that you are not an option, but you're the option because you can clearly articulate that sales message to the marketplace, I failed you, because I don't just want to be another vendor that takes your money to do stuff. I want to have a deeper relationship than that, where I'm actually kind of an advocate and a coach that can help them understand healthier ways of thinking so that they have maybe even more vision than they've had. Because I think people limit themselves because they don't think big enough. They don't dream big enough dreams. And I really believe that the creator of the universe, God, wants us to dream big, scary dreams and go after it. I'd rather aim at the moon and miss than aim at a skunk and hit all day long, right? Every time, like, oh, that was a miss. Okay. Every miss is an opportunity for an upgrade. I'm not going to settle for life down here when I know I can have that up there. I want to have that infectious spirit that provokes people a little bit to think bigger than where they are right now. Think 6 months out, think a year out. Think, what would life look like if our revenue doubled? How could we better serve the market if we had twice the revenue and the resources to do better for the niche that we serve?
So I know for a lot of people who are kind of in this situation where they're trying to get their business off the ground, like the biggest question they have is, well, how do I get more clients, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you were in that phase where you needed to land clients. What did you do to start bringing people in? Because I think you mentioned at some point people were coming to you and they were asking for these services. How did that even happen?
Yeah, good question. It was a combination of a couple things, really. It was just good old-fashioned organic, technical search engine optimization, and it was networking. So much of what I've learned and really grown in has accelerated. It's probably been the last really 7 to 10 years where I've learned the most, because up to that point, it was so much of my small-minded thinking. But something that I know that is powerful and effective is, I think it's really important for people to understand there's this tension that exists in business. You do have to go out there. The expression knock on doors. You got to be in the marketplace. You got to be visible. You've got to be out in the community where your target audience is, and you have to be building relationships. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. Well, how can they know, like, and trust you if you're not visible? Even today, I still think that it's important for in-person networking to happen. But I think it's really critical, though, that you do it well, you do it effectively, because you can go to 10 meetings a week and get 0 leads if, number one, they're not your people, if they're not your dream customer avatar. I mean, I preach that all day long. I'm a huge advocate of, listen, if you don't have a dream customer avatar that you have laser focus on going after, you'll serve no one, because you're trying to be everything to everybody, and you can't do that with integrity. So knowing who your dream customer is, knowing where they hang out, which it could be in person, obviously, but a lot of this stuff, even online with Facebook groups and Reddit communities and different ways to connect with people online, social media and all that kind of stuff. But making sure that you're doing what you need to do to get eyeballs on your brand. And so I do like to do networking. I don't do nearly as much of it as I used to. And so much of that is because it's like, to me, print still has a place. I'm never going to say there's no reason to ever do print again, but I know from experience that properly done digital marketing is so much more effective than the print stuff, and even networking, because once again, we're limiting ourselves by being in a room with a finite number of people. And unless all you ever do is go to networking groups for your dream customer avatar, that's pretty specialized. You're going to have a very limited amount of places you can physically be in to get in front of enough people to get those clients, right? So to answer your question, I think it's really critical. There's this tension of the hustle and grind, right? There's a huge part of coaches out there. You just got to hustle and grind and don't get any sleep and work 20 hours a day. And like, I don't agree with that at all. Like, I completely disagree with that. Yes, you need to hustle. Yes, you need to sell. If you don't sell, you don't eat. That's critical. I don't mean to say that you shouldn't go after and get the business. But I think the opposite part of it with attention is, if you have confidence in who you are and what you do and who you're called to serve, and you can articulate that persuasively and concisely to the right people in the right way, at the right place, at the right time, you don't need to hustle so much, because they will come to you, right? And so a lot of what happened in my early days was referrals. People would hear, oh, who did your website? That's beautiful. What was Matt Stanley over at Oasis Interactive, which is the brand that we're putting in the ground. We'll talk about that probably later. But yeah, he did our website and he does the hosting for it, and he does a great job, takes care of it, and there were great 5-star online reviews. And so, okay, cool. They'd call me and we would see if we're a good fit and get that customer. So referrals is part of it. But also with the organic SEO, it's kind of like just, you don't just hang up a shingle and then have a line around the block. If you have a brick and mortar situation, that's not how it works. If you have a brick and mortar and you have Facebook ads that are really dialed in with your target audience, and a beautiful sales message that's very compelling, that specifically addresses the pain of your dream customer, and it calls them to take action, you will have people coming inside that you just attracted because you're marketing effectively. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for the organic SEO. I still think that is probably one of, if not the most powerful ways to get new clients, because the work you do today will be serving you 6 months and 6 years from now. Because once you get that page 1 ranking, as long as you hold it, it's like having the ATM, printing money. It just comes to you. And I got to tell you, I like a lot more having business come to me than having to like hustle, or, we got to sell another website. We got to hustle, or we're not going to be able to pay the bills. Like, that sucks. Nobody wants that.
So with the SEO, was that local area SEO?
Yeah, it really was. It was like Boise, Idaho web design, Boise, Idaho WordPress web design, Boise, Idaho web development, Boise, Idaho. You put the Boise, Idaho in front of it, and then now here's a problem with that. You can overdo it with that based on what you're trying to do. If you want to be the Boise, Idaho website guy, that's a great strategy. Okay, I told you I was going to tell him myself. I was still small thinking and realizing, I didn't realize it at the time, but I really kind of self-sabotaged, because I was so hyper-focused with the SEO work that I was attracting a certain kind of person. And there are exceptions to this, but Boise, Idaho, it has a lot of very small businesses, okay? A lot of them. And small business isn't doing $1 million a year. It's probably not doing 500,000 a year. You start throwing out prices for websites of 5 to 10 grand. They look at you, like you've got 3 heads and you're an alien from outer space. And it's like, what they don't understand is my cost to pay my team is 5 to 7 grand out the door before I make any profit. So I got to be charging 10 to 25K per website, or I don't pay my bills. And so by hyper-focusing the SEO around the local, I was targeting a market that just doesn't understand the value, and the price point is reasonable given someone with decades of experience that actually knows how to build a website that converts well, right? And builds your list and gets your email list built up and all that kind of stuff. So I eventually got to the point where I was like, I can't keep doing this stuff myself anymore. I've got to focus on setting the direction for the business, building the business, managing the customer relationships, and I need to get out of the hands-on role with doing the work, and I need to delegate the SEO to a team. And so we actually hired a local company. I will not name them. We hired a local company in Idaho and gave them not quite 10 grand over about 6 months of time. And I'm going to have to geek out a little bit here, but they used a bunch of black hat techniques. And, once a month, we'd have our kind of monthly meeting and I'd ask really direct questions because I know what questions to ask to discern if they're doing what they're supposed to do. And I just kept getting just the BS. Well, we're just doing stuff. I said, oh, yeah, I mean, you better be for the amount of money I'm paying you. But what are you doing? And they'd say, well, we sent you an email. I said, no, what you sent me was like super generic and had nothing to do with our campaign. I want to know what tasks you did, how much time you spent, and a before and after measurement month after month of moving up in rankings and traffic generated and stuff like that. And the analytics to prove this is a good investment. And I kid you not, the guy who was like 2 or 3 people removed from the CEO says, no, dude, for the amount you're paying, you're not going to get that kind of attention and custom stuff. This is our boilerplate standard plan for the people that don't pay us the real money. They'll pay us the money worth our time to do that level of customization. I was like, are you kidding me right now? That's the wrong answer. I need to talk to your boss right now. He's like, dude, he doesn't have time to talk to you. You're so small fries. It'd be a waste of his time. He can't talk to people like you. If you're our $10,000 a month client, sure, we can make that happen, but you're not that guy. And I was like, are you serious? So bottom line, we got blackballed by Google. It took us 8 years to come back from that because of the black hat, unethical stuff they were doing. And they refused to tell the truth and show me what they were doing. And so we had to cut that relationship off. It literally took us almost 10 years to come back from that. And I had a valuable lesson that I learned, which is not that I shouldn't have hired someone else to do it because I can't be doing everything myself, but we need to be doing the marketing piece as far as advertising that's congruent with what we're doing. And so the campaign was over here based on a year-old version of the company. It wasn't done with more of a national scope in terms of the market we're trying to get after, right? And going way beyond websites. We were doing the other stuff, but the campaign was not aligned with that. And we had very limited budgets, so we didn't have a lot of options to do all sorts of crazy stuff. So yeah, if you want to be hyper local with your SEO as your strategy, that's fine. But just make sure that it's alignment with your own goals, right? If you want to be doing 5 million a year, but you're targeting a business that isn't doing 500K, there's a disconnect there. That doesn't work. Right. So, yeah, I hope I didn't mansplain that answer, but it was a valuable lesson and it was scary because the finances just tanked and we had to burn through almost all of our savings. And it was a scary time.
Well, and for those of our audience who aren't familiar with the terms black hat or white hat or gray hat, those are terms that are often used in the SEO world for different types of techniques that you would use to rank a website. And so black hat would be the stuff that is maybe considered unethical or against policy, not necessarily illegal, but something that's against the policy of Google or the other search engines that you're trying to rank your website in a way that's not legit.
Yeah, gaming the system, cheating.
Yeah, trying to game the system. And here's the thing with black hat is that, does it work? Yeah, it can definitely work. I don't know that it's ever been a permanent solution for anybody because Google and all the other search engines are always looking for ways to identify and then shut those websites down.
They will catch you eventually. And when they do, there's some severe consequences in terms of penalty because they're like, listen, if you're going to do things above board, you're going to deliver value to our customer, we'll make sure you stay on page 1, top 5. And if you don't, I mean, scorched earth, man, you'll never, ever, ever come up in search. So yeah, you don't mess around with that stuff. Just have integrity, do what's right, serve their customer. They are in the information business and their algorithm wants people looking for information and content to find the best quality information and content that's aligned with search intent. I want to find the contractor that does the best quality work in Boise, Idaho for my roof. Who should I consider? And it's a combination of things. It's evolved so far over these last 30 years. This is my 30th year. It was so cool. It was just kind of a fun milestone as I did the math. And so this year, 2025, when we're recording this episode, is my 30th year in this industry. And what has happened over the last 30 years is like being part of a science fiction film with the technology. Now we have AI. It's crazy, but it's complicated, right? So you've got to have your online reputation just dialed in and on point. And again, you can even game that technically if you want to, but you shouldn't. So if you have a solid online reputation, like a drip, a sprinkle of reviews every week forever. And it's real people that really bought from you. If they want to leave a 1-star review, let them do it. Here's the link. Go leave us a 1-star review. But if they do, you better be on that like white on rice to make it right and say, I am so sorry, John Smith, we failed you, that you felt like a 1-star review is necessary. What can we do to make this right? We want to make sure that you're taken care of because we're better than that and we missed it and we're sorry, right? So that's just one little piece, but you've got the online reputation, you've got the visibility with the SEO, you should have a social media presence, you should have a beautiful website, and you should just be kind of making sure you're representing yourself ethically with integrity because you want to serve your customer. And I think so much of where business misses it and gets it wrong is they're so focused on revenue and market share and being the best, they lose sight of why they're here. At the end of the day, whether you're a Christian or not, at the end of the day, if you're watching this episode, you're listening to this episode, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you exist because God has given you amazing gifts and he wants you to enjoy those gifts. He wants you to use those gifts to serve people and make the world a better place. And there is nothing more fulfilling than that. And so if we just have a heart of integrity, we love the work we do, but we love serving people, and we make sure that that missional kind of directive guides what we do in business, we'll never have to worry about paying the bills. We'll actually have surplus because God blesses with amazing prosperity a heart that loves to serve people and people that are part of a team of people, right? As far as your company and your culture, that's like, we're all in the same bus going the same direction. How can we make the Treasure Valley, which is the name for kind of this area I live in, right? In Boise, Idaho, man, the best place to own a business and the best place to buy from, because these business owners really take care of people. So I'm passionate. I love what I do. I love serving people, and I love helping encourage other people to have that kind of that excitement, because when you've been doing business as long as I have, it's easy to just get discouraged a little bit, just get a little bit like, because it's hard work, man. But to show up every day with a good attitude and say, I know I'm here for a reason. I know that I can touch someone's life today and make it better. And that's fulfilling. That it's kind of rekindles the pilot light, so to speak, referencing our gas fireplace in the living room. Just keep that pilot light lit and keep it burning. And sometimes you have to just make a decision to show up and give your best because you ain't feeling the feels. You know what I mean?
One of the early lessons we learned in our business that was very valuable, and it's much easier said than done, but taking the emotions out of what you're doing, because so many times we let our emotions control what we do in our business. And early on, we had mentors that were telling us, just do the work, no matter how you feel. You may feel depressed, you may feel like it's not working or whatever, just do the work and eventually the result will come. And sometimes it's not just about the feeling, it's also that they don't know what work to do. But as long as you're doing the right work, the results are going to come. If you're on a sales call and you're getting rejected, if you are calling leads or doing the networking and the prospecting thing, right, and you're getting rejected over and over and over, it's just a matter of learning from that, getting better, continually improving, self-reflection. You may get discouraged. You're going to hear a lot of no's most of the time. Even when you're good, you're going to hear most no's, but you got to keep going to get to those yeses. So the two things that I think people struggle with the most at the beginning stages, well, and even at the most advanced stages of business, I mean, this is always an issue, is number one, getting in front of more people, of the right people, and then number two, the messaging. And so what you said about doing the hustle, the networking, the prospecting, getting out there, talking to people, I think that's the way that a lot of people start their businesses. And then some of the SEO things, the local SEO, I think is a great idea for a lot of people who can take local clients, because I run a local website for a martial arts dojo that I go to. And that website was not ranking for hardly anything on the first page. And within a matter of, I think it's been 7 or 8 months now, we are now the number 1 or number 2 overall result for all the major keywords in his niche. I mean, it took some work, but now it's like we're just coasting along, just create an article or two on his website and we're good, and make sure that we're getting the reviews. And I did that with free YouTube videos. I didn't have to buy a big course or anything. So getting in front of people, I think, is number one. But the second thing, which I think you did, was your message changed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Tell us about that, because I think what a lot of people do at the beginning is what you did. You say what it is. It's website development versus what you do, which is more like, I'm a marketing specialist.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think this is a good time to kind of talk about me in the season I'm in right now, because this has been years and years and years in the making. I realized I had an epiphany moment, a moment of realization. I went, you know what? My business is so broken, it's going to fail. It will die. If I don't make massive changes, it will not survive. Especially now that AI is here and you can literally build a website on Wix for almost no money that looks really surprisingly good in less than 15 minutes. If even you started using a computer 5 minutes ago, I mean, it's gotten there. So websites only as a business is not viable unless you have 5 million clients. And the churn rate's going to be insane, by the way. You're going to have 10 new clients a month for all the people going out the door because they can find something cheap themselves. But I realized I'm not actually solving the root problem. It was scary, frankly, because I was looking at the revenue just going down, 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 the client churn rate going up, 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 and just losing clients in droves. And then COVID happened, which was really fun. Holy cow, that was devastating. And I realized this is not a viable business model. We need to solve the root problem. The website it's almost like the last third of everything needs to happen, right? So I realized, okay, what do I do? What do I actually do? I couldn't really articulate that for a long time. And so when I don't know what to do, I pray. I'm like, Lord, help me figure this out. I need the answer, but I need to not only have the answer, I need to be able to communicate the answer in a way that makes sense, that people get instantly, that just doesn't require a lot of explanation. They go, oh, I want to learn more about that. And so I said, okay, help me figure this out. And so I got quiet and I prayed, I took notes, and I just kind of looked at my journey and realized what I'm actually doing is fractional CMO work. That's what I'm really doing, right? And so, well, what does a fractional CMO do? Well, they really help you solve the problem of I don't have enough clients and I'm not keeping the ones I have, or not enough of the ones that I have. And if they're leaving, it's because they're not a good fit anymore. We'd rather they just work with someone else. And so the Lord said, well, that's great, but that's not a sales pitch, Matt. Unique value proposition statement. You can say in preferably 10 to 20 seconds that is really compelling and interesting and engaging and memorable and actually provokes an emotional response. Because that's what you do for clients, but you need to do it for yourself. And I was like, okay, kind of like the cobbler's sons have no shoes, right? The portfolio on the agency page is never as good as it should be because we're always working on client stuff and we just neglect our own. You know what I'm talking about. You guys probably relate to that. And so I was like, okay. And so here's what I came up with. I said, okay, first of all, we got to rebrand. We have to. And so getreviewsandleads.com was born. And I kid you not, I was just thinking about this one day and I just said, we need to start over. And he goes, yeah. And I said, let's start with the domain. And so it just popped in my head. And I thought, there's no way that's available. There's no way that that's not taken. The Lord goes, well, go check. So I did. $8.90. You can own this today. I was like, I have to be dreaming. This can't be real. He's like, buy it before someone else does. And so I bought it. Then I bought the .com, the .co, the .net, I bought all, like 5 or 6 major versions of it right at the time. And I was like, okay, well, I got the domain, I got the name, but like, what is that? Getreviewsandleads.com. Yes, it's a statement. It's a verb. It starts with a verb. Get what? Reviews and leads. That's awesome. Like that's the business. He goes, yeah, but flesh it out a little bit. And so I goes quiet again. And what came into my heart, my mind, was this amazing thing that's so exciting. I got to talk about it. It's a system that just works like math, like 2 + 2 = 4. Every time you run the calculation, it always works. And I said, okay, start with your who, and then explain your what, and then end with your why. And if you put those 3 ingredients together in a recipe, you get a unique value proposition statement that should make the hair stand up in the back of your neck. So I said, okay, let's do that. And so here's what I came up with. We help growth-minded entrepreneurs reach, attract, convert, and keep their dream clients without overwhelm so they can build a business that serves them well. So growth-minded entrepreneur. Okay, wow, that's a lot. Let's unpack that for a second. Growth-minded entrepreneur. A growth-minded entrepreneur is not a business owner that just has a job. A growth-minded entrepreneur looks at every failure and disappointment and negative thing that happens as an upgrade opportunity. Fixed mindset people will never succeed in business because it's always someone else's fault. They're the victim. The economy's in the toilet. They have no power to impact change. They are always going to be in victimhood. And that's no way to live. Everybody lives through hard things, guys. Everybody does. But what are you going to do about it? You're going to sing a song of sadness and cry and, oh, look at how bad my life is? Or are you going to look at it as like, I learned something. Every failure that I've ever experienced, and I've experienced a lot. I've made mistakes. I've made stupid decisions in ignorance. I've done things unintentionally that were not the right decision. But every time afterwards, there's a consequence. The consequence is a gift from God because it's an opportunity for an upgrade and learning opportunity, where now I have a tool in the toolbox I didn't have before, and I can learn from that. And now I can approach the next challenge with the context of that experience. It's awesome. Right? And so I'm like, okay, growth-minded. If I'm not talking to someone that's growth-minded, and you can tell in about 60 seconds with the right questions, maybe 90 seconds, couple, 3 minutes. If they're not growth-minded, I don't care how much money they have. I probably don't want to work with them and I probably won't. So growth-minded entrepreneur. Now, an entrepreneur is someone that goes, yes, I own a business, but I have vision. I see the future that I know I can have and I will go get it no matter what. Nothing will stop me. It's a different species of human. And I want to work with entrepreneurs, not business owners. And it may sound weird to say it that way, but I feel like that's the way to explain what's in my heart about this. And so growth-minded entrepreneurs go, we are on a mission to do what God put us on this earth to do. And I'm excited to get after it. Oh, that's my kind of person. Let's go. So we got the who. Okay, now the what. Okay, well, what are we going to do? We're going to help them reach, attract, convert, and keep. RACK, rack. That's the proprietary marketing system I talked about. It's ours. It's holistic. It's comprehensive. It's amazing. Reach. Well, what's reach? Reach is the fact that the market knows you exist. They're aware of you. So reach is going to be your online omnichannel. There's a geek term again, but like your website, your socials, the visibility you have in the marketplace where people are aware that you exist and they know what you do. Reach. Okay, cool. That's my reach. Well, once you've reached someone, they're still not a customer. What do we got to do? Well, we got to attract them, right? And so just like when you have a human relationship, I'm married. I'm excited. We're going to celebrate 20 years next March of marriage with my wife and I. I didn't just go out on the first date and propose marriage. She would have probably run away and not finished the date. Just like in dating relationship, right? It's the same in business. There's a courtship that needs to happen, right? People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And so once we have reach, well, that's cool, but we want to attract. And see, this gets back to what we were talking about earlier, Todd. You can go get him, which, it just feels yucky. It's like when you go to the network meeting and the Amway guy comes up, you're like, oh God, help me. You just like avoid eye contact and go talk to a stranger like they're your best friend just to avoid talking to the guy. You know what I'm talking about, right? So no one wants that. And that's why I like attract, because if you have your act together over here with your sales message and your traffic sources and your online assets, which gets back to reach, then you attract the people that you want to work with. And it's just a much more pleasant experience for everyone. It's better for your prospects. It's better for you. Everybody wins and it doesn't feel yucky, right? So we've got reach, we got attract. Cool. Now, once we've attracted them, what do we want to do? We want to convert them. This is where the transaction happens. This is where they give you money. They trust you with a credit card and an agreement of some kind. Maybe it's a checkout page, maybe it's a contract, doesn't matter. But they say, I'm ready to actually take it from the stage of we're not courting and we're not dating. We set the engagement date and we say, I do in front of God and witnesses, right? We close the deal. If you don't close sales, you don't have a business. So convert is critical. Now, the fourth part is actually what I think is the most exciting part of this, because it is the secret sauce, right? Too many people are so focused on acquisition. We got to get more customers. They're blind to the fact that the gold mine that will never run out of 24 karat pure gold nuggets that's right in front of them is being neglected and going to seed because they're not recognizing the value of their existing customers. Keep, right? We got to keep them. It is 7 to 10 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than it is to keep the ones you have. That's a really, really important statistic. And so too many people kind of do business like with a 5-gallon bucket full of water because they're like, oh, we got to get, the water represents business, cash flow, customer, right? But they're just constantly filling the bucket and they've got a hose as high as it can go, fill the bucket. They're like, dude, it never gets full. And they don't realize it's been drilled full of holes that are like the size of a silver dollar, because for every one customer in, 3 are going out. So the keep is, to me, in some ways, even more important, because if you're not keeping the customers you have, you will never get on the hamster wheel from hell. And it will be a job you grow to loathe and despise and hate, because it is nonstop stress. And you can never step away and go on that vacation with your family. You can never entrust your team to run the business without you for a week or 3, because you got to just have your hands on the wheel all the time, because it's not a healthy business. Does that make sense? So the keep part is critical.
Now, I know that we've talked about a lot of things here, and you've got a fascinating story, and everything that we dug into about acquiring customers, getting your business off the ground, the messaging, which is super important. I mean, imagine that going from I sell websites to...
Oh, we help growth-minded entrepreneurs reach, attract, convert, and keep their dream customers without overwhelm. Because a lot of people that deal with marketers are like, oh, it's just stressful. I dread the conversations because they're going to talk over my head. They're going to assume information I have and know that I don't. And I just feel like I'm like the kindergarten in the room of PhDs that doesn't even know what's going on, right? Like, no, it shouldn't be overwhelming. It should be a really pleasant experience. Your marketer should be one of your best friends that you look forward to talking to, because they should be able to speak in a way you understand. They should be able to objectively prove return on investment and value. And it should be a relationship that you never want to end, because it works so well for both of you. And you're getting a great return on that investment, right? And so we want to avoid overwhelm, but we also want to get our clients to a place where it's like, what do you want? Do you want to build this thing to 7, 8, 9 figures and then like cash out, sell it and retire? Do you want to take this into a franchise model and take it national? Like, what do you want? And so we want to help people say the business should exist to serve the market and serve the customer, but it should also be the vehicle for the life that I want for myself and my family. And so I want to really help people get to a place where they're just not working in the business much. They're working on the business. And even that, it's like they have other options because the business is just an income producing asset that, yes, is fulfilling, but it gives them other choices. It gives them other options because maybe they want to do a lot of like volunteer work or philanthropic work, or maybe they want to mentor somebody else and the business is there to fund it, but they want to start a nonprofit or something like that. So I really look at business with a complete life cycle of what's the destination, what's the ultimate purpose here. Along the way, savor the moment. Don't be so future minded that you're not fully present and enjoying where you are, but let's always have vision for what's the point of all this.
So you went from I sell websites to that. I can imagine the value that someone assigns to each of those. How much do they expect to pay for a website versus how much do they expect to pay for everything that you're doing now? Yeah, I'm sure there's a world of difference there. There's so much more that I know that we can go into, but we're running short on time here. If people want to learn more about you and what you do you have any freebies for them, or how can they find you online to connect with you?
Definitely. So with getreviewsandleads.com, I'm having to start over. I'm having to just really build everything out. But if you go to the website, getreviewsandleads.com, the default page actually is not a website. That's on purpose for now. It's actually a pretty awesome offer where we give you some valuable stuff there. And we just ask for your information and then we'll get on a call and then we'll hook you up with that. But I've written a book called The 10 Best Lead Generation Strategies to Get Customers Now. Do you guys you're going to have like show notes that I could give you some links directly to some awesome?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll go ahead and just give you links to all of our lead magnets, all of our free stuff, and people can just kind of pick what seems right for them. But getreviewsandleads.com is one sales funnel we have. We got some other stuff. We do have a Google business profile. I've got a Facebook page, and I'm working on building out really all the other social media channels for the brand right now. I've got to mention this too. I am in pre-production for my own podcast. I'm super excited about this. It's called the Growth and Freedom Podcast. And I'm recording episodes. I'm getting the pre-production work done. I actually want to launch with at least 3 episodes so people have some content to kind of go through instead of having to wait every week for it. But that's coming up and I'm working on that too. So I don't have the landing page ready for it yet, but I'm working on it. So at some point, maybe I can get you that link for listeners too, because it's going to be a lot of really awesome, fun content and really just teaching people how to build a business and how to grow it. So
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt, for being with us today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. Bless you guys. Thanks for having me on.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. The strategies and earnings mentioned by our guests represent their individual experiences and results. Nothing shared on this show should be considered a guarantee of earnings or success. The views, opinions, and claims expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official views of the Digital Trailblazer podcast or its hosts. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute professional, financial, legal, or business advice. Please do your own research and consult with qualified professionals before making any business decisions.